Good morning. This is video number 9 of my set of 31 videos that I'm making in hopes of helping someone learn about using a glucose meter as their fuel gauge. And along the way, they can use whatever diet they're already on and learn from that as they go through a 30-day challenge. So today is day 8 of the 30-day challenge of using a glucose meter as a fuel gauge. I woke up this morning here in our home in Texas, very happy to be home sweet home. And my morning waking glucose was 79. Probably because I ate so little yesterday. I really did not get enough nutrition yesterday. I probably got plenty of protein, but definitely not enough nutrition. And to see what I ate yesterday, I'll go ahead and put up a couple images of the pictures that represent yesterday's food. I intend to eat a whole lot better today, getting in more nutrition. But the refrigerator's kind of bare. So I'm going to start with some breakfast of some non-fat Greek yogurt. I'm going to put a cranberry sauce on it that I have sweetened with stevia, homemade cranberry sauce. But along with that, underneath it, I'm going to serve up some ground up flaxseed. I have this grinder over here that I use to freshly grind my flaxseed. And I'll put information in the description box about why one would want to take that extra step of grinding your own flaxseed and about the health benefits of flaxseed. I might also have this bag of mango chunks that I pulled out of the freezer last night to defrost. I'm feeling the need for some energy. Yesterday's meal, or food, like I said, had protein in it, and it had fats because of the croissant, but I'm feeling the need for some carbohydrates, so the mangoes will do that for me in a healthy way. I'm working on getting ready to leave the house right after I get some breakfast in me, and I'm packing up a lunch, and this is what I kind of have to work with. I pulled out some Hubby Lovin' chicken strips that I had in the freezer, so those thawed overnight. I'm going to pack up some of those for a brown bag lunch gathering that I have today. And I'm going to scrub these carrots and not peel them and eat those as well. But I don't have any fresh food in the house because I've been gone for a couple of weeks and my husband's just been working through whatever was available. So there's no leafy greens, there's no cucumbers to gnaw on, there's no zucchini to treat like a cucumber. I just have to work with what I've got at hand. On my way home from my outing today and my brown bag lunch, I will be stopping at Trader Joe's to get fresh veggies. I want some fresh veggies. Oh well, this is what I have to work with. This is what I'll work with. My morning meeting is over with, and now I'm sitting in the parking lot outside of Trader Joe's, ready to go in and do some grocery shopping and restock the fresh food for the refrigerator. This morning, my morning fasting glucose was 79, and I also ate using that as my pre-meal glucose. And I will put up a screenshot of the breakfast bowl that I made for myself. It had sweetened yogurt in the bottom and then a layer of freshly ground flaxseed for the fiber and for the omega-3 oils. And on top of that, there was some stevia sweetened cooked cranberries that had been thickened with Glucomannan.
I should have crushed up some Brazil nuts and sprinkled those on top. That would have added a nice texture to the breakfast, and it would have given me some selenium. I will put the information in the description box about the flaxseed, the use of selenium, getting selenium from Brazil nuts. And so that was breakfast. And today was actually a good day for me because I ate breakfast and lunch. Usually I eat just one meal a day, but I know ideally I should eat 2 meals a day. And I think the best timing would be to have a late breakfast and an early dinner. Today I had a normal time breakfast and a lunch, kind of high noon lunch at my gathering with the ladies. We brown bagged it. Everybody brought their own lunch. When I got ready to have lunch, since it was only, well, let me think. If I finished eating, say I finished eating at 8:45, even 9 o'clock, then I really just barely had 3 hours before I started eating again. And ideally, you would have 4 hours between meals. But that's okay. I was in a social situation and I was going to act accordingly. It's not harming anything. My glucose pre-meal for lunch was 92. I entered that into the DataDriven fasting app as a pre-meal number, and I got this message back. It says your blood glucose is above your personalized trigger. Mine's 80, and I entered 92. Then it says, if really hungry and your blood glucose stays elevated, which it wouldn't have, I could have waited more hours and eaten in the late afternoon, early evening. But, sorry, going back to the sentence, if really hungry and your blood glucose stays elevated, make sure you have one less meal than normal today. Well, my normal is 1 meal a day. And if I'd only had breakfast, that breakfast bowl, I don't think that would have been enough nutrition for the entire day, nor enough protein. Oh, I realize now, I threw I stirred in a scoop of collagen into my yogurt. So there was that little bit of added protein in my yogurt bowl. But as I was driving to my meeting, I realized that it would have been nice if I'd put more thought into my lunch that was the Hubby Lovin' chicken tenders and some chunks, some carrots, raw carrot with a peel on. It would have been great, ideal, if I had mixed up some kind of a greens drink to go with that meal. And then I would have gotten a lot of nutritious things in my eating today. But I didn't. And I ended up sharing the Hubby Loving chicken tenders and the carrots. So I did not eat as much of the chicken and the carrots as I might have, or I was capable of, because I was sharing with other ladies who hadn't quite prepared for the brown bag lunch. So I shared with them, and then I got a treat that I didn't plan on having with my lunch. Our hostess offered us all dessert options. And she said, would you like a brownie or a cookie or, I can't remember, ooey gooey butter bar? And I don't remember if she offered a third thing or not. You know, greedy little me with a great sweet tooth. I said I would like a brownie and a cookie. So that, you can see those in the lunchtime picture. So that added a burden on my body instead of a blessing to my body, but it added a blessing to my taste buds. Vitamin P, pleasure. I enjoyed those, and I'm not going to feel guilty about them. So that, all the food that I had for breakfast and lunch, I'm hoping that will count for the rest of the day. I'm hoping that I won't consume any more food today. If I'm hungry, that's when I will resort to having something with protein in it that is pulled back on the fuels. And it may be at that point that I decide to make up a greens drink, since I feel like I should have gotten more greens in today. So I would mix up a greens drink. I do have frozen greens in the freezer. I don't throw, if my greens are starting to look a little on the edge, I throw them in the freezer and I use them in these greens drinks. And I have a video or two on that topic that I will link in the description box of this video. But as I was saying, if I get hungry today, towards the end of the day, and I don't want to just sort of ignore it and go to bed and have hunger pass. Hunger comes in waves and it passes. Then I will use a greens drink and I will put protein in it with either whey powder or more collagen or gelatin. Well, I probably won't use gelatin, but that will be my approach later today if necessary. So now it's time to go in to Trader Joe's and buy some fresh veggies and restock the refrigerator now that I'm home for about a week. Today's Wednesday and I'm actually home for a week. Today's Wednesday and I leave next Wednesday. Okay, here we go. Into Trader Joe's. We've come to the evening of the day and I'm going to wrap up the video and just summarize things and try to keep my mind on track with the information that would be useful to you, someone who is interested in using your glucose meter to be your fuel gauge and maybe have the advantage of separating fuels, because that's one of the things that I talk about on here. Even though today I clash things together with those desserts and the things I enjoyed after today's meal. And I will recap the food that I had today and explain what that falls into fuel-wise or protein-wise or nutrition-wise, because protein is one thing, nutrition is another thing, and fuel is another thing, even though if you drew out a Venn diagram, there would be crossovers in things. But anyway, the refrigerator is restocked, and so now I will have some fresh food to work with in the next couple of days. And I'm enjoying the thought that tomorrow morning I do not have to go out of the house early in the morning, so maybe I can do something special for the morning part of the video. But let's see. It is the end of the day, and I have not had any hunger since having that yogurt bowl for my breakfast, and then the brown bag lunch meal that was hubby living chicken and raw carrots and some luscious desserts from my hostess. I haven't had anything else to eat, and I haven't been hungry, and that's great. Now, I won't be surprised if I get a little hunger pang before I go to bed at about 8:30 tonight. And if I do, then I need to decide whether I want to live with the hunger, and it won't hang on. Like I said a little earlier in today's video when I was sitting outside of Trader Joe's, hunger comes to us in waves. And if we wait a few minutes, maybe 15 minutes or so, usually at the longest 15 minutes, you just all of a sudden realize, oh, the hunger has passed. Now, it will come back again. And so we don't always have to answer the first call of hunger. Actually, I've read a study, I don't think I've saved a link to it, but I read a study that letting that first wave of hunger come to us and being patient for it to pass and waiting for the next wave of hunger is a weight loss tool. I don't remember what is going on metabolically in the body, but it's a good practice to let yourself feel the hunger and let it pass. which is what I did last night. I felt the hunger. It wasn't strong. It didn't make me feel like it was driving me to my knees. I have had really strong hunger before with, fasting and different things like that. And sometimes it can feel like it is pushing me to eat, demanding that I eat. But we all have stored fat on our body, almost all of us, that can carry us over. So that was another study I've read somewhere that, maybe that's something I can do tonight, is if I have some extra time, see what I can find about even a lean person. How long could they go without eating? What did they have on their body for a body fat percentage, and how long would that last? But anyway, this data-driven fasting, using a glucose meter as your fuel gauge, the point is not to do a lot of fasting. The point is actually to be able to do the minimum amount of fasting that is healthy for you, and to figure out getting in good nutrition, good protein amount, and then knowing whether you need fuel, carbs or fats. So I think it would be helpful if I reviewed what I had for food and how that fits in protein, nutrients, and fuel. So this morning's breakfast bowl was with the sweetened, non-fat Greek yogurt. I like to use non-fat Greek yogurt because then I can keep it without having a bunch of fuel to it. It's focusing on protein. I can add fat if I want to it. I can add carbs if I want to it, or I can keep it low fuel, not adding fats or carbs to it. So that would be low fuel is fuel pull in TrimHealthyMama terms. So in general, 0% fat-free Greek yogurt is going to be a fuel pull item with protein in it, lacking carbohydrates for the most part, lacking fats. I say lacking carbohydrates for the most part because there are some, but it's low enough to fit in that low fuel pull category. I sweetened it with some stevia, and I wanted to add fiber to it, and I wanted the omega-3 fats. And that's the role that the freshly ground flaxseed played for me. Also, I like the texture of having that layer of flaxseed that's dry and a little on the nutty side with the cool, creamy yogurt. I like to have different textures and tastes when I eat something. So, sweetened Greek yogurt, fat-free, freshly ground flaxseed. Now the omega-3s, they add fat to that meal. I wouldn't say they turn it into, a lot of fat for the body to deal with, but there is fat in flaxseed. The omega-3s are a fat, a very healthy fat. Using the cranberries that I had cooked down with water until they were popped and they were soft, and then I thickened them with Glucomannan and sweetened them with stevia. It made it like a cranberry jam almost. And that also is a low fuel thing. There's not much sugar to cranberries, and that's why they're so sour. So looking at that bowl as a whole, I would say there was a small amount of fat in it, a decent amount of protein, because just the yogurt alone is protein. The flax has some protein in it. And I mentioned when I was out front of Trader Joe's, I remembered that I had stirred a scoop of collagen in it, adding more protein to it. So I felt like I did a good job of getting a solid amount of protein for that meal into that yogurt bowl. I did think about it after the fact and kind of regretted that I didn't take 3 to 5 Brazil nuts and whack them up with something heavy like a meat mallet to break them up into nuts that I could sprinkle over the top of that dish. I would have enjoyed having that addition of another texture in the bowl, and it would have given me a really nice food source of selenium. I don't take selenium, but I eat Brazil nuts to get selenium. There will be information in the description box about selenium, Brazil nuts being an excellent source of selenium. Back to the flaxseed. The flaxseed served as a great source of fiber to slow the rise of glucose. And that's a good practice, is to figure out what to eat and what order to eat so that you can slow your glucose. One person that talks a lot about that in the social media realm and has written a book about being able to slow your glucose rise and still eat lots of great foods that you want by choosing food order would be Jessie and Chauspé. I will put a link to her a podcast that I really enjoyed. I've listened to lots of her podcasts. You can just search for her on YouTube if you want and find plenty of interviews she's done. But I'm going to put a link to my favorite podcast that she's done, and a link to her book, which is called Glucose Revolution. Yeah, I think that's the name of it. So the flax that I used was for adding fiber for my gut health and for slowing my glucose rise. So if I had to label my yogurt bowl fuel-wise for TrimHealthyMama, pretty sure it would have been an S meal. Satisfying fats. Very healthy fats. The mango chunks that I had thawed and thought I might eat today, I never did eat those. And so those probably will be used in a meal tomorrow. Those would definitely fit in the healthy carbohydrate category. They will have fiber to them too. They're whole fruit, so the fiber in the mango helps slow the glucose rise, but they're definitely one of the more sugary fruits or glucose-loaded fruits, but a great source of nutrition. Energizing carbohydrates puts them in the E category, and so if you want to separate fuels, you would not have something like mangoes combined with fats in your meal unless you wanted to do what is known as a crossover, where you're using both carbs and fats in the same meal. So I started with a glucose this morning, waking fasting glucose of 79. I went ahead and ate and put that waking glucose in my DataDriven fasting app as my pre-meal glucose, which is 1 point below my personalized hunger trigger of 80. And I took my glucose before I ate lunch, which was about 3 hours later, almost to the hour from when I finished consuming my breakfast meal. So almost 3 hours later, we ladies were sitting down to eat our lunch, and I took my glucose then, and I was at a 92, which means I had a much higher pre-meal glucose than my personalized hunger trigger of 80. And if I was really being a stickler for things, then, and I was concerned about not adding more fuel to my body, I would have focused on a very lean protein and non-starchy veggies that would not add carbohydrates, or and I wouldn't have used anything dressing wise that would have added in fats. So I would have tried to keep my meal just protein and nutrients and not adding in fuel of carbohydrates or fats. But I didn't care. I'm not struggling with my weight. Yes, it would be nice to lose a few pounds during this challenge, but it's not all that important to me. I'm content at this weight. I feel good in my own skin, and that's the whole point for me when I started seeking help and stumbled upon the idea of using a glucose meter as my fuel gauge. It was because I was very unhappy in my own skin. I felt like a stuffed sausage in my clothes, and I refused to go up in sizes of clothes. So I had to do something, and I didn't want to live with that menopausal weight that had slowly crept up on my body over a 2-year period of time as I was searching for answers of how do I defeat this steady upward creep of menopausal weight gain. Now that I have my glucose meter and I know to pay attention to my glucose number and use that personalized hunger trigger as my target to get to, then I feel in control of my weight instead of my weight being in control of me. And that's what makes this whole thing a huge success for me. In addition to the fact that I mentioned in an earlier video, I'm off all thyroid medication. Don't have to deal with that every month. That expense is out of our life. My thyroid functions nicely, and my triglycerides are beautiful. The last blood draw I had, my triglycerides came in at 46. That's stellar. That reminds me, I'll go ahead and put up a triglyceride chart. It may have other blood values on it, sort of the ideals to shoot for, but really, it's like I'm almost just patting myself on the back for that great triglyceride level, because it's an indication of oncoming heart disease. So anyway, I will have that chart up in this video so you can see what that is. It will not be linked in my description box. I don't think I know where I got that image from. It's just going to go across your screen and you can look at it there. So when it rolled around to lunchtime, I was not at my trigger of 80. I had a glucose of 92. Had I not been in a social situation with these ladies, had I been here at home, I would not have eaten. I would have waited until later in the afternoon and probably eaten a meal around 3 or 4. But I'm going to eat and be social. So I had packed some hubby loving chicken, and that recipe is typically made with a dark meat chicken, and it's always considered an S dish because it's cooked with melted butter and some Parmesan cheese and stuff. But I was able to pull back on the fat load in that recipe by using the white meat chicken tenders. It was still an S food because it was cooked in the butter, and it did have some Parmesan cheese to it as part of a coating for it. So I had the hubby loving chicken. I had the raw carrots. Now carrots, when you cook them, it actually kind of brings out more sugar to them, and it causes a faster glucose rise. But when you eat carrots raw, they're more closer to a fuel pull category because of the the fiber that your body has to break down to access the glucose in them. There's going to be a link or information in the description box about the benefits of eating raw carrots. If I were really hung up about my weight, then I should have said no to the offer of the desserts. Our hostess offered us 3 desserts: the brownie, the cookie, or the ooey gooey butter bar. So I wanted 2 of the 3. I had the brownie and I had the cookie. Those do not fit on Trim Healthy Mama plan. They're made with, white flour, white sugar. They're just a clash of processed, not healthy things. But I enjoyed them. And when I'm out and about, I'm going to eat stuff like that. When I'm here at home, I can cook those things in a more blood sugar friendly way. And that's one of the beauties of Trim Healthy Mama, are all the sweets and treats recipes that we have available to us. And you can go ahead and Google. You will find a plethora of recipes out there. You don't even have to have a Trim Healthy Mama cookbook, which I think there's 5 of them now. I think what I'll wrap up with is that concept that protein, nutrients, and fuels, they are each different things, but there's crossover in them. So, for example, chicken. You're going to get protein from chicken, but depending on what kind of chicken meat you eat, the white meat or the dark meat, you're going to have a fuel with it. The dark meat chicken is going to have the fuel of fats with it. If you stick with the white meat chicken, then you're in the low fuel territory, a protein with low fuel. So that's an example of a food item being in both categories of providing protein and providing fuel, depending on whether you choose the meat that has the fat in it or the meat that doesn't have the fat in it. Same thing with something like beef. You can choose ground beef that has more fat in it and protein, or you can choose super lean beef that has been ground up that doesn't have fat in it, and it could be considered a lean protein. Part of managing your weight and wellness is getting yourself educated on what is available to you in your food ingredients. Being able to pick out, does it have protein? Does it have nutrients? Does it have fuel of fats or carbs? And that can be confusing to some people. Like my husband, he doesn't really care to learn, and he doesn't have to learn. I'm around and I provide his meals. I take pleasure in cooking for my husband. So I help him manage his weight and wellness by serving him things that I know will be giving him protein and providing nutrients, and I play around with which fuels we have. So I know how to separate fuels easily because of 17 years of low carb living. Definitely got me educated in not having carbs, being able to just use fats. But I also was part of the low fat crowd back in the, I think it was the 80s and 90s, where everything was advertised as low fat, low fat, low fat. Oh, those Snackwell cookies. What a disaster those were. Fat-free cookies that were just so horrible for your body. When manufacturers pull out fat, they have to add something else in. And what did they add in? More sugar to those cookies. So, but yeah, I was a Snackwell's girl way back when. Beans. That's another topic. Beans and legumes. They're going to be great for fiber, really good for your gut biome, microbiome, for prebiotic, to feed your bacteria in your gut. And your gut needs the fiber to be healthy, because it's feeding your prebiotic bacteria. So beans and legumes are a healthy form. They have protein, and they have carbohydrates, and they have fiber. I just took my glucose reading to kind of end this video with, and I have an 89. And so I'm going to go to bed with a glucose under 90, and I like that. And then in tomorrow's video, I will start the video with what is my morning fasting glucose. That is not one of the things that you have to track during these days of hunger training. We're in our 8th day of the DataDriven fasting challenge, of using your glucose meter as a fuel gauge. And the only thing that sort of is the bottom line thing to track in this hunger training phase is our pre-meal glucose. You know what? I need to look at the chart, and I'll put that up in the video so you can look at it too. So just a second on that. Yeah, I'm looking at the chart, and if you had started data-driven fasting with the challenge community, doing the paid challenge, you would have started that on Saturday. And right now we would be on day 8, which would be another Saturday, which would also be a Zoom day, being able to participate in the live Zoom and ask your questions directly during the question and answer breaks in the Zoom talk that Marty does every weekend. So we're in hunger training, day 8, and the only thing that is kind of the bottom line is to take a pre-meal glucose number. Now Sundays, it is suggested that once a week during this 4 weeks of the challenge, that you take your weight measurement, your body fat measurement, take a selfie so you can see the change week to week, and your waist measurement, in addition to your pre-meal glucose numbers. So this now wraps up my 9th video in my set of 31 videos, and we're doing 30 days of challenge. So I had a first video that was sort of get you started with information, and then the day 2 was actually starting the challenge. So we're now on we're on day 8 of the challenge in this set of 31 videos. And I'm gonna wrap it up now, and when the video is available, it will have a fully loaded description box. Any information I can fill up that description box with to point you to helpful things, I am doing that with each and every one of these videos. So thank you for watching.